Okay.
Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a Thursday edition of Matthews in the Morning coming to you from the International Diamond Center Studios. Locations across the state of Florida, right there at Celebration Point in the heart of Gator Nation. Also, don't forget, you need some HVAC work. Give our friends at Comfort Temp Heating and Air. They're their number one local HVAC company around. Comfort Temp is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. We got Brent Beaird lined up, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. We'll also have Graham Hall for 24/7 Sports. Let's go straight to the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. And we are joined by Brent Beaird. Good morning, Brent. How you doing?
Shane, good morning. We don't have the quality of games that we did last week. Everybody is either off or taking another team that's not as potent as I had in the first game, but it's still football, and that's all that matters.
That is very true. I don't care. I'll watch two FCS schools play.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple of good ones. Oklahoma's got a good one. We'll talk about that one for sure.
They
Brent,
do.
the new poll came out. Anything surprise you on that?
No, not particularly. It was pretty. Now, obviously, LSU is number 3, so they look good in beating Clemson. But a lot of the rest of them held in their place. Miami up to 5. Texas has dropped to 7. The biggest drop was from Alabama, going from 8 to 21. So, and no shortage of SEC teams in here either. I tell you what, it's one of the first times that we've seen Miami is 5, Florida is 13, and Florida State is 14. So for the first time in a while, we've got 3 of the major schools in Florida who are in the top 15.
Yes, indeed. Brent, TJ Finley, he really wants to play football. He's been in school forever.
Yeah, he really has. TJ Finley has been at LSU, Auburn, Texas State, Western Kentucky, and Tulane. He is now enrolled at Georgia State. Now he has thrown for 6,000 yards at all those different schools, 37 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. You know what I would be interested to know with Finley would be the old statement of what kind of progress has he made in earning a degree?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Shane, if you lose minimum of 2 or 3 classes, maybe ever transfer, you wonder if he's halfway through yet.
Brent, in this new world of college athletics, when is the last time you've heard any athletic director, any coach of any sport really talk about academics? Has anybody been suspended for missing class in the last 5 or 6 years? No.
No,
Because it does not
that we know
that's not even part of the deal anymore.
No, it's really not, is it?
No. I mean, I'm pretty sure Florida still makes you go to class and has somebody there.
Right.
You know, they always have those, back when we played, they had those undercover student assistants that would sit there and see what they check your name off if you were in class. Thank goodness I was a business major for some reason. I have no idea why I did that. But I was the only person, so I'll be honest, I never went to class because they didn't have anybody over there checking the business school.
I bet they didn't.
Yeah. I just crammed as much as I could the night before a test to make sure I passed. But anyway, I don't know what made me think of that. Oh, TJ Finley. He really wants to play football, I guess. He might
does.
as well give it up. Brent, you're an Alabama guy. I need your thoughts on what happened.
Well, it was ugly, to say the least. First season opening loss since 2001 when they went to UCLA. They're 4-5 in their last 9 games. They've lost consecutive games, which includes obviously the loss to Michigan in the bowl game, first time since 2013. I mean, Alabama had 14 5-star recruits on their roster. Florida State had 1, which is amazing too. If you're looking for a stat for the game, Alabama had 74 yards rushing, and Florida State had well over 200 yards. I thought that was huge. Frankly, Bama giving up 5 yards per carry kind of makes you wonder, really. And look, all the stuff coming out of preseason camp for Alabama was very positive, but they get on the field against a much improved, desperate Florida State team, and that did not help them at all. So Ty Simpson, the quarterback, was inconsistent, but I give him credit for what he did. I mean, anybody who saw the game would also understand Alabama was not in position to make plays on defense. They struggled with penalties on offense. Now, one of their defensive tackles, Jeremiah Beeman, he had a knee injury yesterday. So he is out for the rest of the season. 8 penalties, 70 yards. And again, give Florida State credit, Gus Malzahn and the offensive crew that took advantage of it. But it was not a good performance at all by Alabama, and Florida State got the win, and they deserved it.
Yeah, I love when things go bad, how they look at the quarterbacks that transferred out.
Yeah.
And like you said, Ty Simpson was not the issue of why they
No.
lost to Florida State, but
3.
Alabama's got 3 starting quarterbacks playing elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, Julian Sang at Ohio State. He didn't do a whole lot, but he was instrumental in the win against Texas. Eli Holstein at Pitt, they beat Duquesne 61-9, 15 of 23 for 214. And Dylan Lonigan at Boston College, who 268, 4 touchdowns, and won the win against Fordham. So the competition wasn't very tough, except for Texas, shall we say. But at the same time, and again, the Castellanos left Boston College. Lonigan goes, so so that's kind of interesting. But yes, the 3 quarterbacks Alabama do not have anymore have played rather well.
Auburn Tigers got a big win at Baylor. I thought Jackson Arnold did some nice things. However, they still ain't using the damn best receiving core probably in America. He's got to get the ball in their hands, man.
Yeah, and to follow up what you're saying, Cam Coleman, who's one of the better receivers in the SEC, had 1 catch for 23 yards. And they play Ball State this weekend, so they'll have a feel-good win with that. And Arnold, Jackson Arnold, who came over from Oklahoma, he wasn't great, but he ran the offense well. And Shane, I mean, the thing they did was they played to their strength. Well, their strength also is, or their receivers. Jackson Arnold, I'm sure that will improve this week. But they ran the ball, and they ran the ball efficiently, and had a big win on the road at Baylor.
Yes, they did. Gators host South Florida this week. Your thoughts on that game, Brent?
Yeah, it gets to be a little bit more of an interesting game now. Byron Brown, who is the South Florida quarterback, 4,000 yards in his lone full season with the Bulls. So I think he will get their attention. 4:15 game, which hopefully won't be brutally hot or during that time too. Florida's never lost to South Florida, so that's the advantage. And frankly, Shane, I mean, Florida did a lot of good things, 55-0. We understand the competition with Long Island, but they did what they needed to do. Frankly, Lagway did okay. The guy that kind of got our attention here in Jacksonville is Tramel Jones, the backup who was able to come in and play rather well. So 12 of 18, 131, pair of touchdowns. So if you're a Gator, it was a good day.
Yes, it was. The Dogs put it on Marshall. They play Austin P. Won't be much going on there. Any news out of Athens?
Yeah, Gunnar Stockton had a good performance. 4 total touchdowns, 2 passing, and 2 rushing. They beat Marshall 45-7. So 4 touchdowns from your quarterback is pretty good. And Stockton had more rushing yardage than anybody else did, and really played rather well overall. So I mean, Georgia looked, I won't say in midseason form necessarily, but they looked good. They had blocked kick, which helped. They got up early 21-0. So Austin P coming up, but tougher competition is coming at Tennessee, and then they host Alabama the last Saturday in September. So competition is going to get better real soon.
The Pouncy twins, Mike and Marquise, invite you to try the mango martinis at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, handcrafted with their J.F. Hayden liqueurs. Try those flavors and find your favorite at shopjfhaydens.com. We got Brent Beaird on the Titan Number Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Brent, one of the games that I'm looking forward to, the Rebels travel to Lexington, Kentucky. We know this is the game that basically cost Ole Miss going to the playoffs last year.
Yeah, and no doubt they'll remember that. Now, if you haven't been paying attention to Kentucky, for our listeners, the quarterback in Kentucky is Zach Calzada, who has been all around the league, including Texas A&M. Now, Kentucky did a good job. They did what they need to do in beating Toledo, so they deserve some credit for that. They only had 85 yards passing, so they're hoping that will improve. But still, they were glad to get the win. Jose was 10 of 23 for 85, not great numbers. But the Kentucky defense limited Toledo to 59 yards rushing. So that was a plus. Austin Simmons looked pretty sharp, 341 yards and 3 touchdowns for the Ole Miss quarterback. Harrison Wallace had 130 yards on 5 catches. One Lacey ran for 3 touchdowns and 108 yards. So Ole Miss did what they needed to do. The offense was efficient, and the defense looked good. But still, Kentucky beat Ole Miss last year. Some people arguing that may have kept them out of the playoffs. That might be debatable overall, but it certainly had an effect on the season. So that this is a big game, and the game's at Kentucky, by the way.
Yeah. Andy's question for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law. It says, Brent, do you think Jaden Rashada will be the next TJ Finley?
Andy brings up a good point. Rashad has been around the block, to say the least. It would take Shane and I a little bit of time to add up the number of schools he's been at. So to his point, he has had his struggles too. Would that be an understatement, Shane?
Yeah. You bouncing around.
Yeah.
LSU, huge win at Clemson. They're hosting La Tech. I thought LSU's win was the best win out there because it was on the road. And I think the Tigers are going to be tough next week for the Gators.
Well, look, the thing they've done where their improvement has been is with Blake Baker at defensive coordinator. They have struggled, frankly, defensively, but they're beginning to get it together. But Blake Baker did a really good job at Missouri, if that name sounds familiar, and that's where he came from. Garrett Nussmeier did okay too, and again, give Clemson credit. But LSU looked good. Clemson landed 10-3 at half. Nussmeier had 230 yards passing. Cade Klubnik 230. Well, they had the same amount of yards. That's amazing. Harold Perkins and Whit Weeks, their linebackers were really good. That made a difference too. So LSU's got an easy game this week. They play a lot of Louisiana teams to their credit, and they host La Tech. But Shane's right. LSU got one of the bigger wins anywhere. To win at Clemson certainly means something. So we'll see where these two teams go. But that was a huge win for LSU. And
yes, it was.
Defensively, Shane, they were much better, weren't they?
Yeah, there's no question. I think both those teams are outstanding. No, the SEC has some games this week that maybe the average fan's not intrigued by, but I really am. I think the Mississippi State, Arizona State is going to be a good one.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about that. Mississippi State played well over Southern Miss. Now, you having ties to the state of Mississippi, understand that is a big game, and that both those teams may not be where they want to be right now, but that was a big win for Mississippi State. If they could beat Arizona State somehow, that would help them tremendously, frankly.
Yeah.
Would it not? So, but State is better. I give them credit. Still don't know, Shane, if they can beat Arizona State. Arizona State's still a good football team overall. No question about that. So, but I think they're at a crossroads. If they could play better against Arizona State and not get blitzed, I think that would help them a lot.
Yeah, I think Arizona State's going to struggle playing in Starkville because I saw a clip of their practice the other day. They had like the water girls ringing cowbells the whole practice.
Yeah.
They're going to be surprised at how loud that damn place is.
Really?
The Border War, another really intriguing game, Missouri Tigers against the Kansas Jayhawks.
Yeah, no question about that. That's another under the radar game. Bo Pribula in his first start looked good for Missouri. The problem is they lost Sam Horn, who is also one of their baseball pitchers, and his future is going to be in baseball. Sam Horn's is, but he had a significant leg injury on the first snap, and that was tough. But Missouri could keep rolling. Missouri's got a pretty easy schedule early in the season, so that is going to help them. So nice start for them, but Shane's right. This is one of those quiet games, shall we say, that between two pretty decent teams.
And then the one that I can't wait to watch, I'm a big John Mateer guy at Oklahoma. They're hosting Michigan, who has the #1 quarterback in America from last year's recruiting class, Bryce Underwood. This is going to be a pretty good game in Norman.
No doubt. Yeah, agree with that totally. And Oklahoma looked better. A lot of that was Mateer. I mean, they put up 35 points against a team that's not very good, but still, you've got to be able to do it. Game day, by the way, will be at Oklahoma. If you're wondering where they are, that will make a difference. Now, Michigan lost one of their star linebackers, Jashawn Barham, in the first half. Now, he was ejected for targeting, so he will obviously miss the first half. Coming up, Shane's right, Bryce Underwood being on the road, that will be interesting. Justice Haynes runs for Michigan. That was, yes, the Justice Haynes from Alabama, who they could have used him if they would have run the ball in the loss to Florida State. So Shane is right that this will easily be one of the better games, frankly, in the nation coming up, and that would help Oklahoma tremendously, Shane, to get a win here.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma wins easily. Chris in Mayaca says, ask Brent on the Titan Mar text line, ask Brent if there's ever been more parity in college football than right now. I hate pay for play, but I think it has equalized the playing field.
Well, it's going a long way in doing that. I certainly get the point. I mean, when you look at the teams in the top 25, a lot of them are kind of what we're used to. But I think where you really see more of the parity really comes in. I mean, Arizona State's at 12, Iowa State's at 16, SMU's at 17. Indiana's at 23, Texas Tech's at 24, and Utah is at 25. So you don't see as much necessarily in the top 10, but you certainly see it, don't you, Shane, after that?
Yeah, for sure. Another good game, in my opinion, is Vanderbilt at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech lost the other day to South Carolina, but I like their team, man. I think they're well coached. I think their quarterback can cause some problems. They run the ball well. This is a dicey game for Vanderbilt.
It is. There's no doubt about it. It's on the road, too. Diego Pavia ran only 8 times, 44 yards. That's not much for him, but he didn't really need to run. I mean, he threw for 275 yards and 3 scores. Eli Stowers Stowers is still one of the best tight ends in the country. So I tell you what, it would be easy to say Virginia Tech will rebound and play well after that last loss to South Carolina. But this would be a huge win for Vandy, wouldn't it, Shane? I know Virginia Tech has struggled, but at the same time, to win a game like this on the road would be huge for them.
Yeah, I for some reason Vanderbilt was a great story last year. They got to show me again this year, Brent,
Yep,
because
I hear you.
Pavia, like I said, he's not a great player. He just knows how to win games.
He does.
But
Oh, yeah.
the defensive coordinators on their schedule studied him and what they did the entire all season.
Yes.
I think they're going to slow them down this year. I could be wrong,
Yeah.
but I don't think Vanderbilt's going to win that game. In the ACC, I think the best game there, and this is a really intriguing game to me, is Duke hosting Illinois.
Yeah, it really is. I would agree with that. And Duke may be able to win that game. Now, Illinois has a 3-year starter in Luke Altmaier, who, by the way, yes, was at Ole Miss.
Yeah,
Remember
really
that
good
name,
player.
Shane?
He's a very good player.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Illinois probably is a better team, but still, anything can happen here. This is a noon kickoff, so I'm with Shane on this one. It should be a lot of fun.
Brent, give us some nuggets.
Yeah, Clemson plays Troy, so they're trying to get to rebound there. Florida State hosts East Texas, which we know that will be an easy win for them, but they certainly feel good about where they're going to right now. Miami hosts Bethune-Cookman. Carson Beck played well the other night, 20 of 31 in that game. Reuben Bain, who got hurt, folks might remember that name, one of their better defensive linemen. So that was a big win for Miami. They played well. They didn't score or barely got a first down on their last 4 drives. So Shane, I'm also interested in what you think about Texas. Arch Manning struggled against Ohio State, and again, it's one of the better defenses in the nation that Ohio State has. He was only 17 of 30 for 170. Got a lot of commentary this week on his mechanics, or maybe the lack thereof. Still think Manning will be okay eventually, but it was a tough loss for Texas, and Manning struggled a lot in that game.
Yeah, I thought Arch's fundamentals. He's never played like that.
Yeah.
He didn't throw the ball sidearm and all that stuff, falling backwards last year when he played. I give a lot of credit to Ohio State. I mean, they are the defending national champs. They played at home. I thought Matt Patricia's plan was phenomenal. Not only did Arch struggle, I thought Sark struggled calling plays.
Yeah, good
Um,
point.
Having said all that, Texas is going to be in the hunt. They got too much talent. Their defense will carry them until the offense catches up. They'll put up a bunch of points this week, I'm assuming. And I think they play a bunch of cupcakes till they come here, but I think Texas is still a very good football team.
Yeah, I would agree. And by the way, Tennessee plays East Tennessee State. A&M hosts Utah State. I guess you'd rather have these games now in September rather than November. But I will say this, and Shane and I have touched on this, when the ninth game is added to the SEC schedule, Shane, don't you think we'll see fewer of these games that we're seeing this week?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at, like, we talked about this, like Florida, Kentucky, South Carolina, and Georgia, and I may be leaving somebody out. Once you add the 9 SEC opponents,
Yes,
you have that Power Four outer conference ACC teams that we play: Florida State, Louisville, South Carolina, and Clemson. So that's a 10th game. What do you do with those two?
Yeah.
I would think we probably do have two cupcakes because you're going to have 10 damn hard ones.
That's right.
It's already kind of what we got this year, quite honestly. Florida does.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
real quick, we're on 71 on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum, says, QB, how many people in Napier's Army would be tasked to break down film from week 1 on USF, LSU, and Miami, especially LSU and Miami? So here's how it works. And I don't know who these are, but they got so many damn graduate assistants and whatever. So they've already broken down everything you can possibly break down from a tendency standpoint all summer long on the opponents. And I'll be honest with you. They probably were practicing all last week against LSU, but the players didn't know that.
Yeah.
The players had no idea that they were working on stuff during practice for LSU. Maybe South Florida as well. I don't know. But they were not practicing for anything that LIU did.
No.
Because you didn't need to. But they have all that broken down, the tendencies and what have you. And then after week 1, the same people are breaking down everything possible from week 1 games. And so there's a lot that goes into it. Sometimes it's way too much information. I'm like, I don't need to hear all that. Let me just watch the tape.
Yeah, really.
But boy, they get analytical in today's world. I saw a great quote by Drinkwitz at Missouri. I forgot it was something along the analytics, Brent. He says, they pay me to make decisions, not read a computer or something along those lines. I don't remember exactly what he said, but I agree. I agree.
Yes.
So, Brent, good stuff as always. We'll see you next week, my man.
Good. Enjoyed it, man. Take care.
That is Brent Beaird. Join us on the Tight Number Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. We'll take a quick time out. We'll come back. We'll get to some of these questions you guys had more about Scott Strickland with Graham Hall for 24/7 Sports. You're watching or listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the International Diamond Center Studios. We'll be right back.
Naysayers. Setbacks. Injuries. Life throws a lot of hurdles your way. The key is just keep jumping them.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, International Diamond Center, Meldon Law, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute, J.F. Hayden Craft Liqueurs, Florida Cracker Kitchen, Los Landeros Tequila. Gridiron sponsors are Baker Sporting Goods, Comfort Temp, Electronics World, Florida Victorious, Gallo Car Wash, Miapa Latin Cafe, Peachland Dental, Quality Plumbing, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Silverback Concrete, 84 Lumber, Big Mills Cheesesteak, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Sign, Gator Bait Media, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, UF Bookstores, Nest and Wow, MG and A Wealth Management. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor, call my man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Coach, you know what always impressed me? How you beat Florida State to win the 1996 National Championship.
And I was really impressed with your 06, 08, and 09 Gator teams.
And the way you coached Danny to the Heisman Trophy.
A lot like what you did with Tim Tebow.
You know, you won more SEC championships than you lost home games at the Swamp.
And you had plenty of super games in front of our Gator Nation.
Yeah, there really is something special about the Swamp.
I guess that's why we say about the Swamp, only the Gators get out alive.
To the Swamp and the Gators, with the best beverage served at Spur's Gridiron Grill, 100% agave, Los Landeros tequila, aged in bourbon barrels for a smoother taste.
I think you mean Head Beer Coach 1966 lager, a crisp, light, bodied lager for easy drinking.
Nope. Los Landeros tequila, smooth enough to drink neat and bold enough to elevate a cocktail.
1966 lager, enjoyed on game days in the fall or whenever you need a winning cold brew.
Los Landeros tequila.
1966 lager.
Los Landeros.
1966 lager.
Y'all stop bickering.
Okay, you're both wrong anyway. The best thing Spurrier's Gridiron Grill offers are Jerry's famous chocolate chip cookies.
Welcome back to the International Diamond Center Studios. Ruse Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ograinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Back to the Titan No More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Town. We're joined by Graham Hall from 24/7 or 247 Sports. Good morning, Graham. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. It's an exciting time.
All right, before we jump into the Gator football talk, Rick in Jupiter, and we got a bunch of people chiming in on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, basically about Scott Strickland's big extension with no president, and also what was the rush with the football season upon us. Is Foley still pulling the strings over there and getting his guy paid? Tell us about his extension, his raise, what you know there.
Well, I don't share my thoughts on Scott Strickland too much, because I guess it depends on what the lens you're looking at him under is. I understand people who are critical of the coaching hires in the past, you know, the situations with women's basketball and soccer. If you want to use that to knock him, it's not going to be me who's going to stop you whatsoever. But the facts are that in terms of what Scott Strickland does extremely well, fundraising, facility improvements, he's highly respected by his peers and his colleagues. You know, he's done a great job in fundraising. You look at the $86 million Hebner football training facility. The Hawkins Center is instrumental in the last decade. You know, the renovations that they're doing right now, from the O-Dome roof to the basketball practice complex, which is getting a $8 million renovation by next February. You know, Scott Strickland deserves a ton of credit for all those. And the facts are Florida is in the midst of fundraising for what is currently a $400 million massive renovation for the Swamp. In my opinion, that is what is going to be his legacy defining project, setting up Ben Hill Griffin Stadium for the next 50 years of being a state-of-the-art facility and keeping the history involved of why that is one of the best venue in college sports. And that currently has a completion timeline of February 2030. So just that fact alone, you want to have the main fundraiser guy locked up for the remainder of that process, right? And that makes a ton of sense. And then you look at the special assistant to the director. That's no different than a lot of other contracts out there. I guarantee that at the end of his term, if he does not remain as Florida's athletic director past October 31st, 2030, that there are a ton of other athletic directors around the country that are also going to be remaining on. And this is nothing new, even in Gainesville. You mentioned Jeremy Foley pulling the strings. And of course, he still has influence in Gainesville. There's a lot of guys he worked with, Chip Howard, Steve McLean, who were with Jeremy Foley. And Jeremy Foley has a lot of valuable insight to help with the current director. And then the next director will get that from Scott Strickland. So this is less about do you like Scott or not? How good of a job has he done in hiring coaches? That's not the main job necessarily for an athletic director. It's to build the program and expand the program. And a lot of that in this day and age is the facility arm race. And in my opinion, I think Scott Strickland does an excellent job of that. And it makes total sense to have him on board throughout the remainder of the Ben Hill Griffin Stadium renovation project.
I agree. People talk about his hires and whichever way you want to think, he hired Todd Golden, right? We have a national championship. Football, he hired Dan Mullen and he hired Billy. Time will tell. But from a facility standpoint, he has done a phenomenal job because I was preaching 15 years ago about how far we were falling behind due to facilities, and people thought I was crazy. But yeah, and I know people are upset about what we're going to do to the swamp. It's going to stay the same. They may take a few seats out, which is not going to change the noise level. Trust me. Tennessee, I think, did something very similar. Graham, you've been to Tennessee. They have all those chair backs on the lower level on their side with the cushion backs and everything. And I think that's something that we'll probably do. I don't know what the plans are, but I know some people don't want it to happen. I know a bunch of people that do want it to change to be more comfortable sitting watching the game. So, and again, I take nothing away from those other sports that there have been issues with, but in the grand scheme of things, only thing that people look at are football, baseball, and basketball. And maybe softball and track. I mean, track's going to do their thing. Softball's going to do their thing. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get to the Gators. Graham, give me your thoughts on performance number one against the Sharks and what we need to do in your mind to play better against South Florida.
Yeah, I mean, dominant defensively. That I think is the biggest takeaway, right? This was a Long Island offense that, was a little bit hard to get film on, to prepare for. They used two quarterbacks. Obviously, there's a massive talent disparity, and Florida's defense just completely took advantage of it, and they used a ton of guys in that game. That's the most impressive part to me in the game. And then if you want to evaluate the offense, you had a quarterback in DJ Lagway who we've talked about it a ton. You talked about it all the time. The biggest issue for him was the lack of development time, not so much the health concerns. Would he be ready? Would he not be ready? It was that he didn't have all this practice time to improve at reading zone defenses, making the right decision, get down timing with his receivers. And I think that you saw a lot of that rear its ugly head early on against Long Island. Now that stuff's going to improve. And I think it's a huge reason why, because I was speculating that, maybe you only played DJ 2 or 3 series in the game. A great decision to play him the entire first half because that allowed him to shake off some of that rust, get back to feeling a little more comfortable in the pocket, rolling out, making plays with his legs as well. You're going to need that stuff moving forward, and he's going to have to go out there in a game and do it. And you look at USF now, I don't think the USF game is the game that you want to throw him out into the fire and play the entire game when he had been sidelined for the previous 8 months. So I do think there's a lot of ways that he can improve. I thought Tramel Jones looked fantastic. You and I were just talking about this. I mean, throws a really catchable ball, looks comfortable, poised, has, knowledge of where the play is developing, isn't going to just check down necessarily. He's not going to just zero in on his primary read. He's going to see what's out there. And every time he had to make a throw, the ball went where it should, which, no offense to DJ, that's not something I don't think you could say with DJ. I mean, he threw out in the flat a ton when he should have let the play develop a good bit. And I thought it was just, an impressive performance from Tramel Jones. Overall, and I hate to be a downer in any way because I do love reactions. Maybe I don't love overreactions as much, but this is a game where I don't think it's really worth overreacting in any way whatsoever. I mean, if you're a Florida fan, did you want them to go out there and show every wrinkle, every creative play call that they've worked on and implemented? Did you want them to put that on film against Long Island? No. I mean, for long-term competitive chances, you want to show as little as possible of what you have in your bag. And I did think that Florida did that against Long Island, and they ran the ball extremely well. There's certainly some areas to improve. Bryce Lovett's going to get better. The Gators are going to get more comfortable with Lagway in there, obviously. But it's hard for me to nitpick a 55-0 win where they turned it over to the backups. Really, after the first quarter, you were rotating on the offensive line. You were rotating consistently on the defensive front. I mean, you saw 4 or 5 linebackers out there consistently. They used guys, in the fourth quarter who were former walk-ons and current walk-ons. I mean, it's not a game worth reacting to too much. I think it's more interesting that we really haven't seen a Florida team at its full prowess necessarily, and that's going to be this Saturday's test, which is why I'm kind of eager for this game because it is going to be our first real gauge. It's going to be the fair barometer of what Florida has.
Text on the Titan Mark text line from Jimmy. He wants to know, Graham, do you think Dallas Wilson plays this week?
I would probably say not. Um, I put on Swamp 247 last night that he was still in a walking boot after last night's practice. He's able to take it on and off. He's able to move comfortably, but they're going to be cautious with that guy. Obviously for him, he'd love to play against his hometown team, being a Tampa native, but this is someone who you have to be cautious with. He already didn't want to be wearing a boot. Definitely didn't want to be in a cast. You know what you have in him in a sense, as much as it would benefit him to go out there as a freshman and have a chance to perform and get better and better and know what it's like to play in front of 90,000 screaming fans. That's going to benefit him, but you don't want to re-aggravate this in any way. You don't want him to be feeling cautious whatsoever. You want him to be 100% comfortable with it when he goes back out there. So I think that Florida's going to hold him out once again, and I think LSU is more likely for him. But they had 15 receivers catch a pass against Long Island. Vernell Brown looks great. They were able to play the other freshmen and Nashon and Muiz. You've got certain guys you're still working back as well, like Aiden Mizell. When do they get Khalil Jackson back? So they're plenty deep in wide receiver. You don't need to rush Dallas back whatsoever, even though I totally understand why people are excited to see him after seeing all the hype about him for the last 8 months and seeing him have nearly 200 yards in the spring game.
Defensively, Pup Howard, do you think he plays in this game? And we got a bunch of people that listen to this program from Lake City, and they're always talking about Jaden Robinson. And, he's that guy. And I spoke about it yesterday or Monday on the program. He just kind of flies under the radar, right? He gets no pub, but he's always flying around making plays. How do you think the linebackers played? And do you think Pup Howard comes back this week, or do they save him for LSU?
I think the linebackers were fantastic. I think that having Robinson, Graham, and Childs all out there, you could play all three of those guys in certain situations because Childs has the ability to, line up on the edge and rush the passer. It's going to give them a lot of creativity. I think that just the guys we just mentioned, and Miles Johnson looked pretty good as well. He had 3 tackles in just 13 snaps on Saturday. They're going to be cautious with Pup Howard. They know what they have in him as well. A guy who hasn't missed a tackle in his collegiate career. I have less information about where Grayson Howard is at. It's been kind of an interesting, speaking of under the radar, I think that his injury circumstances have definitely flown under the radar because he missed most of spring camp. He missed a lot of fall camp and then was still unable to go Saturday. Are they just being really cautious with him? Do we see him on Saturday, or is he another guy who's going to need a little bit more time? I don't really know. I think that it makes sense given what you have in Robinson, Graham, and Childs, that if he's not 100%, you're not rushing him back out there whatsoever. The interesting component where they prepared for this was the coach to player communication. Working Miles Graham at middle linebacker, weak side linebacker with the green dot on his helmet so he can be the communicator. So you weren't going to have a drop off with Howard not being out there, the guy who had the green dot last year. So they've prepared for this. I don't think he plays. I think there's a chance he plays against USF. But like I said, we really don't know a ton on his circumstances, what he's dealing with. But it makes sense to me that they got to be 100% cautious with him because they don't have to rush him back.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that they had somebody else with the green dot to do the communication. Looking at USF, we all know what they did against Boise. I think their skill guys are, they have a ton of players on their team that are like fifth and sixth year guys. I mean, they're a very experienced team. I think we can take advantage of the in the trenches on both sides of the ball. Having said that, do you think Billy, and I don't know if you mentioned this in any of his pressers, do you think he wants to try to like keep the offense on the field so our defense doesn't have the fewer plays that they have to face Byron Brown? Because I think he's a dynamic runner and he can throw okay. He reminds me a lot of Anthony, man. Really good runner, going to make some plays in the air, but going to miss a lot of easy throws. What do you think they're going to do there? Did Billy talk about that at all?
He didn't mention game plan stuff, which makes sense. You don't want to
Yeah.
really tip your, hand to the opposing team, but they're going to run the ball consistently. Florida's not going to run as fast-paced, up-tempo offense as USF is, but they're going to run the ball consistently and throw it when necessary and take whatever time they can. But I got to be quite honest, outside of Byron Brown, I think USF's defense looked really, really good. So I do think that's going to require Florida to have some 10, 12 play drives to find the end zone here. They may take a few shots and expose some coverage issues for USF. I don't think they're fantastic in the third level, but you look at USF on the line of scrimmage. I mean, and Shane, I would really love to hear your thoughts on this, but go look at the interior of the offensive line.
Oh, they struggled. They're not very good.
They're not good at all. I think that Makai Barrow, Brendan Bett, if you get Caleb Banks back potentially, Jamari Lyons, I think those guys are going to absolutely eat on the inside and cause a lot of disruption issues and not allow, USF to do a lot of stuff that they like to do and create those, run holes to run through. I don't think they're going to have a great time when it comes to facing pressure all day. I think that Florida's going to be able to slow USF's offense more than people think. They're better at setting the edge. They're not going to get gashed by these, dual threat quarterbacks at the rate that you saw in 2022 and 2023. So I think Florida feels really good confidently um, going into this game from a defensive standpoint, but I don't expect Florida to try and match their tempo whatsoever. I think it's more they're going to try and disrupt it. It's all about getting lined up correctly, knowing the assignment. I know this sounds cliche and boring, but Florida has the tools to stop USF's offense. They just have to go out there and do it. I really don't think it's going to be that close of a game on Saturday because I think Florida just is the more talented team. Even though, like you mentioned, USF has a ton of experience. They benefited from the portal. They benefited from in-state recruiting, just the amount of talent in the state and in the Southeast in general. I just think that Florida's the better team right now, and USF may have a good scripted drive or two, but I think that Florida's just going to have their way on the inside there, and you're going to see a huge performance from Florida's interior defensive line on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. The trenches is where we have a huge advantage. The key to me in the game is though our defense has to be disciplined in their rush lanes, right? They can't, be selfish and rush too hard or get out of your lanes because that's where Byron Brown can hurt you just because of his running athleticism. So we'll see. Somebody on here on I can't find it, but they wanted to know, has Kyle Trask been picked up by anybody? I don't think so. Has he?
No, I don't think so because I think he's still injured. So I think he's on the 6 week IR, and then after that, he's not eligible to be picked up until after that. So I could be wrong, of course, but no team's going to rush to sign him, given the quarterbacks that are out there, given that you can't use the guy for the first couple of weeks of the season. But I think he'll get picked up by some team, a guy who's, poised. You can make the argument that you haven't really seen everything from him. This isn't a situation where teams know what they have in him necessarily. He's never really gotten a good chance to start and go into a place like, Minnesota or Detroit, a program that, an organization that has a starting quarterback and could turn to him at a moment's notice and give him some time to, adjust. That seems like a good situation for him whatsoever. I just hope he gets a fair shot because I do think that we haven't really seen what he could do. You don't really have this indication one way or the other that he's going to be a success or not in the NFL. People just want to, I think, find out.
Well, he's played 5 years. I would call that success. I think he's going to be picked up by somebody that he has a relationship with, some kind of coordinator probably. and I think he'll last another 5 or 7 years. He may never start, and there ain't a damn thing wrong with that, trust me. But I think he will last a long time because he does everything you want in a backup quarterback. Florida victorious, proud NIL part of the Florida Gators, joined today to help make Florida victorious. Graham, let everybody know how they can. You got any specials going on at 24/7 and read all y'all stuff?
We do. We're doing 60% off right now. We just did 75% off, our best deal of the year. That'll be back. If you didn't take advantage of it, that'll be back, I think, for Black Friday in November. So we'd love to have you join us. Ton of content coming, recruiting content, preview of USF coming tomorrow, film breakdowns. I got to say, we're the only site that has access to the all 22 footage, and Zach Goodall has done a fantastic job breaking it down. Unfortunately, we can't post clips. We found that out the hard way because Catapult owns the film. No shot to them whatsoever. But film breakdowns, a ton of stuff. Come join the message board community, largest message board community, covering the Florida Gators, and we'll be back pretty soon. We're going to learn a lot about this team here on Saturday.
Yeah. Graham, appreciate your time, my friend. We'll see you Saturday.
Pleasure's always mine. Y'all take care up there.
That's Graham Hall for 24/7 Sports. Join us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. David says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Shane, people care about gymnastics, tennis, swimming, lacrosse. People care about all sports at UF. Well, I care about them too, but they don't make any money. The three main sports. Well, there's really two that make money. Men's basketball and football. And that's where all the money goes. I care about them, but we're good at all those. There's no complaining. We're very good at all those. And even people care about golf. I'm on the Gator Golf Booster Board. We will be happy for you to join because they need more money. We have the worst facility in the Southeastern Conference. The golf course is outstanding. The grounds crew does everything they possibly can do with that small piece of property, but the practice facility is the worst. We have like 2 TrackMans for the team. Every other school in the SEC has each player has a TrackMan. So if you would like to join the Gator Golf Booster Board, or not board, but Gator Golf Boosters, go to gatorgolfboosters.com and join. It's that simple. You can help the program. Gallo Car Wash is locally owned by UF alum and the only car wash that provides NL opportunities to Gator athletes. Locations on Northwest 13th Street, Wilson Road, and coming soon to Jonesville. That'll do it for today. Thanks to Brent and Graham. NFL tonight. I think the Eagles roll. I don't think the Cowboys are very good. We shall see, though. Have a great day, folks. Take care.
Record.